Cars are ready. The 12 have been chosen, and 4 distinctly different ovals lie ahead as a challenge. Now, the drivers will score points in each of these 4 rounds, points for their finishing positions, as well as points for leading the most laps. At the end, the man with the most points will be crowned champion, but even more important, he will receive $200,000, the lion's share of the $735,000 purse on the line for the International Race of Champions. Well, already those Dodge Avengers are rolling, so let's take a look at the lineup chosen by a draw. On the pole in the green car is Dale Earnhardt. Alongside from road racing is Jack Baldwin in the yellow car. Back in the second row, 2 road racing drivers. In the mustard car is Scott Sharp and Tom Kendall in the cream car. Row number 3, IndyCar driver Danny Sullivan will join the man in the orange car, Rusty Wallace. Sullivan is in the white car. In the 4th row, it's NASCAR driver Mark Martin in the purple car and IndyCar driver Unser Jr. in the red car. In the 5th row, Dale Jarrett in that black car from NASCAR and road racer Geoff Brabham in the silver machine. And in the 6th and final row, Steve Kinser in that pink car from sprint car racing, the first one from that form of the sport. And in the teal car is Kyle Petty. So now the Avengers are lined up. We look at some of the onboard cameras we have for you. First of all, looking back from Dale Earnhardt, now on board with Al Unser Jr. And all the way in the back of the field on the top of Kyle Petty's car. They are streaming now off of the 4th turn toward the green flag that will start IROC 18, a 4-race run to determine the best of the best. Neatly aligned as they come down across the pit road here at Daytona. All tightly bunched. Always a mark of the best of the professionals is to pull that field as closely together as possible. Earnhardt on the pole. The green flag comes out. And the equality of these new Dodge Avengers already begins to show as they stay in formation through turn 2. Kinser dropped into last place at the front of the field. Nothing's changed. Baldwin gets a nose up on Earnhardt, who comes way low while a draft develops up on the high side. Earnhardt almost down into the grass. And Tommy Kendall looking strong at the front as we look from back in the field from Kyle Petty's car. Danny Sullivan sits just ahead of him.
Tommy Kendall must have had something in mind, Paul, because he laid back at the start, gave away about 2 car lengths, and now he's leading the race. Well, almost led the first lap, but not quite.
Got a lot of help from Rusty Wallace to get into that position, and then Wallace dropped to the inside, took over the position, and is now in front.
Kinser in that pink car right there on the top of the screen is doing an excellent job staying in touch, even mixing it up a little bit with Kyle Petty, who's right in front of him.
Now let's keep in mind, none of these drivers have driven these things in competition. Some of them, like for example, little Al, have never even practiced a lap because of the rain that we've had before the race. So this is going to be all new to them. The first few laps is going to be strictly feeling things out.
Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt are hooked up as Kyle Petty just looks for racing room to try and come forward. Kyle currently runs in 6th place, trying to close on Mark Martin just ahead. You take a look back now at Al Unser Jr. And back to the front. And while they were separated a few moments ago, it seems like everybody's found somebody to draft with, and they are beginning to close back on the leaders. But at the same time, Wallace and Earnhardt, the orange car, the green car, are maintaining a terrific pace here.
And Baldwin has been following way back. Baldwin, who lies in 3rd place, is following back. He's backed up completely to the others. These 2 right here are getting away, Paul. Earnhardt, of course, is in 2nd place here. He's just going to sit there and play cat and mouse with Rusty as long as he needs to.
2.4 seconds from the first pack back to the second group, but the second group is 4 cars running together, and they are beginning to close in. You got a glimpse of that just a moment ago. The battle continues at the front. 40 laps, 100 miles, the scheduled distance. So at the front, it is Rusty Wallace, who started in 6th place, being chased by the pole sitter, Dale Earnhardt. We'll be right back. On of IROC 18 Daytona International Speedway. Here's your front runners. And look at back to Mark Martin, who runs in 3rd, and the pack that follows him. About 2.4 seconds separate 1st and 2nd, which are Wallace and Earnhardt from the rest of the field.
I watched Jack Baldwin in the yellow car there, who was running 3rd early in the race, and Wallace slowly backed up to this group. Now this group right here, which is little Al pulling out right there in the red car, trying to do a pass on Martin there, now, or Baldwin rather. And what happened is that the third group, Paul, is even fallen back a little bit further. So it shows that the guys are not used to the cars yet in the handling department.
You're on board there for a second with little Al. Kyle Petty now working a lower groove down to the inside, but he falls back in line behind Dale Jarrett. Both of them rookies in the IROC series. And take a look at Earnhardt as he makes his move now on Wallace, and he gets by.
These were the two best drivers of the latter part of the Winston Cup Championship last year. Wallace won 5 of the last 8 races, and of course, Earnhardt won the championship.
Look at Earnhardt's signal back to Wallace.
He's telling him, give me a little push. He said, let's bust away so there's no draft for the other guys.
Well, I think they have a chance, don't you, Bobby?
Well, Sam, I think that they're almost just there on that. Just a little help and no fighting between the two of them. They'll get away from it.
Well, that pass was costly, though, for this lead group. They were 2.7 seconds ahead of the group led by Mark Martin. And now they've lost down to 1.5 second separation.
And just so everybody knows, Paul, two cars run faster together, right like this, like you see Earnhardt Wallace there, than one car does, or than cars trying to pass each other. That really slows them down.
And sometimes they run faster relative to the others with one car or the other ahead. And it seems to me, Bobby, they're running a little faster when Earnhardt is the lead car.
So first and second come past. There they are, Wallace and Earnhardt. But the rest of the group is beginning to close in. Led by Mark Martin, then Al Unser Jr., then Dale Jarrett, Kyle Petty, Tom Kendall, Scott Sharp, Danny Sullivan, Geoff Brabham. Steve Kinser is around Baldwin and up to 11. And Jack Baldwin heads for the pits. He slowed down on the backside of the racecourse.
Some sort of mechanical problems for Baldwin into the pits.
And look at Mark Martin as he comes to the inside. Al Unser Jr. is there. And if we're going to talk about how well they handle, there's the example. They came from a 2.7 second deficit, and Mark Martin comes to the front.
Well, those cameras that swing around just absolutely show you what the drivers are doing, how the cars are handling, and where you are on the track, all at the same time.
Well, Earnhardt and Wallace did everything they could to use each other to advantage and to stay out front. They were cooperating to the extent that it's possible in this form of racing, and they were still caught. The other group came from 2.5 seconds back and caught them in about 5 laps. That's amazing.
And as they work out on these cars, you see Wallace and Earnhardt have come back to first and second. They are also using different sections of the race course, trying to find out where the car works best.
Yeah, and you know, when we first started out, the cars separated really bad. The group separated. Now look at them. You've got 6 cars right in one tight group, all drafting on each other and working really well right now.
And look, it's the purple car, which is Mark Martin. As he closes in on the black car of Dale Jarrett, it gives him a very definite advantage, and Jarrett is able to close right up on the back of Al Unser Jr., who now sticks his nose right in the tail end of Earnhardt's car, and Earnhardt goes back to the lead.
Well, they say that Earnhardt can think 2 and 3 laps ahead or more sometimes. He has real psychic force in that car, and I think sometimes so many people key off of him that he's able to dictate the maneuvers. But little Al here, who he's racing with, you see little Al's nose stuck right up behind Earnhardt, and Earnhardt are good friends. They've talked back and forth a good deal, and I wonder if they might not have something cooked up.
Tommy Kendall brings his car into the pits as well. The IROC crew is there ready to service him for whatever may be the problem. Of course, since yellow laps don't count in the IROC, he falls further and further back. We don't have a yellow right now, but a stop in the IROC is just deadly. Take a look to the inside now. Rusty Wallace pushing Dale Jarrett, and he pushes him right into the lead, ahead of Earnhardt.
Well, here's the point. Dale Jarrett is having his first ever IROC race, okay? He's a complete rookie. As I said at the top, he's leading the race. That's what the experience of the NASCAR veterans means in IROC.
So Dale Jarrett, former winner of the Daytona 500, on this track, back in front, but only for a second, is now Earnhardt. Hooks up with little Al and Mark Martin. They take the high side, and it works.
Yeah, Earnhardt moved out. Little Al jumped right in behind Earnhardt, just like a coyote hunting good fresh food. He just jumps right in with them, and away they go. That's the neat thing about racing the Daytona or on the high bank. It changes sometimes 3 or 4 times a lap.
Rusty Wallace comes up to try and help Dale Jarrett as Al Unser Jr. tries to make his move to the inside with Mark Martin just behind him. And it works as they both come around Earnhardt.
And it looks like they make Earnhardt look like, or it makes Earnhardt look like he's sitting still. But really, it's nothing more than drafting, and it's the guys teaming up with each other.
So another lead change, 6th lead change in 15 laps here at Daytona. So once again, it looks like we have a promising season in the International Race of Champions. Look how many of them are staying close together. 7 cars right together in the lead draft right now. And at the front of the order, it is Unser Jr. being chased by Mark Martin. We'll be back with more from Daytona. Trick seems to be to find somebody that you want to draft with. And, of course, the stock car drivers are experts at this track, wonderful at drafting, and get along pretty well, especially in the IROC. So right now, Unser Jr. is out in front, but he runs in front as we've got a car spinning. And up against the wall, Scott Sharp, rookie to the IROC, coming off a 2.
Sharp had a spin here a couple of days ago and heavily damaged the car. His wrist was slightly injured in that incident.
You can watch him. He kept fighting that thing, Sam, all the way. You know, he got it, he lost it. Our car started spinning out of control, but he kept fighting it. Now, that's something in stock cars. You usually don't get them saved when you're on a place as fast as Daytona. Well, might as well just give it up and lock the brakes and ride it out.
Yellow with caution comes out for the first time today. Car looks like it took the impact pretty well. Not a lot of damage there at the right rear, but enough to cause Scott Sharp to climb out and call it a day here in the first round of the IROC.
And a tough debut for him. Very smart guy, a college graduate, and he knows how much a fast start can mean.
All right, let's take a look at this. We're following Scott Sharp here. He's behind Rusty Wallace.
And you can see the car getting a little bit loose. His rear end is loose. He's sliding. He's in a good drift. Once you get on the bottom there, you even saw the left front come off the ground a little bit. He's done right now. His brakes should have been locked a long time before because it's just nothing good going to come out of this thing. Once you've gone to the transition from the track to the apron, there's nobody going to save it right in the middle of the corner like that.
Well, caution still on Daytona Speedway as they sort things out from Scott Sharp's incident. We take a look at how they stand, and we'll be back to racing in a moment. Out in front, and they head for the first turn. Unser Jr. and Mark Martin begin to pull away. Earnhardt in third.
Now, they got a good jump on the other guys. Mark Martin, of course, and little Al. Hey, they're long-time race drivers. The guy that I don't understand why he didn't keep up with him was Earnhardt, the guy that's running third. But look at Mark. He's right tucked up under little Al. Should be bumping him. He's not quite touching him yet. But he should be bumping him because they could get away from the draft. Look how far back that the other cars are right there.
And look at this, Steve Kinser down on the inside.
Terrific.
Seen one of the best stock car drivers in the world, Rusty Wallace. And Kinser, as they all are coming around Jack Baldwin, remember Baldwin is 1 lap down. Look at him hook up and go.
Listen, I think this is one of the greatest performances by a racing driver in 10 years. Steve Kinser learning a thing that is totally unfamiliar to him, usually running on dirt tracks and sprint cars. He did once take a rookie test at Indy. That was back in 1981, but basically he's a short track racer. And look, Bobby, he's keeping up. He's mixing it with the best in the business.
Yeah, the guy is one of the most fabulous race drivers in history, but it's on dirt, like you said, Sam, on a half-mile track. This is a 2.5-mile track around high speed. Only in his test has he ever gone this fast before.
Kinser last year ran here at Daytona, and the twin 125s crashed on the second lap. He's having a much better day here today in the new Dodge Avengers. Rusty Wallace, Jack Baldwin, Kyle Petty. Baldwin a lap down. So now will Kyle hook up with Rusty and try to get them back toward the front of the field, still led by Unser Jr.?
Guys, do you notice how incredibly smooth these cars are? They don't bounce at all. Look at that view from Kyle Petty's car. There is no jounce or anything. There's a little flutter there, but the basic part of the car is absolutely dead level.
Some of that flutter may be the camera's fluttering. These cars are going awfully fast, Sam.
Yeah, well, they did do a little work with the shock absorbers, and they seem to have dialed them right in. They're going 180 miles an hour or more.
Still less than a half a straightaway separates the front of the field from the remainder of the field. And here comes Mark Martin. Now he moves for the lead alongside of Little Al. Earnhardt back up here as well as he's ready to do battle at the front. Looking from Unser Jr. He comes to the inside. Then Earnhardt. Then Jarrett.
Sometimes you find yourself leaning forward in your seat trying to help these guys get by sometimes. You know, they get a run at somebody, they get almost there, but they hit that wall of air when they get right alongside the other car.
I wonder if they perform any body English of their own down in the cars.
Oh, they do, Sam. I guarantee you they lean hard.
There's a hand signal from Earnhardt. It's tough to see out the back of these cars. Notice that they do not have rear view mirrors, and the new cars have high tail, small rear windows there for aerodynamics, but you can see a hand signal if it's clearly given.
So all of them express some concern about rear vision, what with the heavy rollover bars and some of the onboard cameras in the cars.
You know, I think they'll get used to it, don't you, Paul? It's just a little less than it was last year, but I think it's still more than adequate.
You just have to find a different place to look. And, of course, the cars themselves, when they get going as fast as they are now, just a quick glance up in the mirror and a sense of what's going on is all you truly need if you're a great champion like these guys. Dale Jarrett moves to the front inside Mark Martin. It's the NASCAR boys and Al Unser Jr. that are dominating at the front of this field. Little Al down there in the red car. Now he's been shoved out to the outside, and that might be very costly because it's Winston Cup drivers Jarrett, then Martin, then Earnhardt, then Rusty Wallace, then Kyle Petty.
Look how far back little Al went. He really thought he had a team thing going there. He stayed to the left. Everybody closed in to the right side of him. And look how far back he went.
Baldwin in that yellow car on the right of the screen, remember, is a lap down. Not a factor here to win, but very much part of the mix of what happens as we approach the last laps.
In the closing laps, as expected at Daytona, the stock car drivers are having a great run, but Al Unser Jr. is in there doing his best, and he is one guy that they won't toy with. Mark Martin comes to the lead, and look at Earnhardt as he moves inside of Jarrett.
How often has this scenario played out, Paul, as we've watched these great IROC races for the last few years, that it's Al Unser Jr. who is able to mix it with the top Winston Cup men, and really only him on a race-after-race basis.
Shows how truly versatile he is. Down on the low side with a little help from Jack Baldwin, Rusty Wallace closes in on Martin.
Remember, we were looking just a little while back at Rusty Wallace, who was back quite a ways in the field. We thought maybe he's cooling his tires. Well, looks like he's coming back up. Now, it's still going to remain. Who is going to help who? We have two lines right now going. Who's going to help the most out of these two lines? One thing that we haven't seen so far, we haven't seen anybody pushing. Every year in IROC, we see guys bumping the front bumper against the back bumper, give a guy a little bump to help get him down the straightaways quicker. We've not seen that today.
Can't do that as readily in these cars. To the inside, there's Martin. Earnhardt to the high side. Rusty Wallace looking down low. Jack Baldwin comes in to help him. Jarrett's up helping Earnhardt, but it's not going to do enough good as Baldwin pushes Rusty Wallace into the lead. Remembering Baldwin is a lap behind the race. Kyle Petty running in fourth place now, moves up to the high side behind Dale Earnhardt. Well, the IROC run continues as Earnhardt moves in behind Rusty Wallace, our current leader on the high banks of Daytona. We look at all 12 positions, and we'll be back with more. Rusty Wallace now in front, followed by Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, Mark Martin. The yellow car of Jack Baldwin is a lap down. The red car is Al Unser Jr. on the high side there, being chased by Dale Jarrett.
Both Wallace and Earnhardt had quiet times during the middle of the race where they did not dispute the lead. Wallace was way back in 6th or 7th. Earnhardt slipped back to 4th and 5th. Obviously, they feel that this is the moment to make the move, and they're now back up front. Wallace from way back at one point.
Well, with 5 laps to go approximately, we've got serious poker about to take place here. Look at Earnhardt. He's in second. Wallace is in first. Tell me how much thinking has gone along during this race. There's Petty in third place.
Again, this is where people typically key off what Earnhardt does. He is so experienced in these situations, even though he's surrounded by great drivers like Wallace. Wallace and Earnhardt, of course, great sparring partners, great friends. They've had a lot of body contact with their cars through the years. There's the rain. It's starting to rain out there. This could be the race.
Thus far, Rusty Wallace has led 13 laps. Al Unser Jr. 9, 5 points for the lap leader. But the rain begins to fall.
This is
yet,
where
we haven't seen a caution come out.
The observers all around the track report to the flagman, to the control, and so far, none. Remember, a little bit of rain doesn't really hurt anything because of the high banks. You can see how steep the turns are. So a little bit of rain, they can go just as fast as they can when it's dry. It's when it really starts getting wet but they have to throw the caution flag.
And Daytona, typical of any beach tropical area, you could have a little bit of rain in one section of the race course, and then instantly it goes away and dries out.
Well, it's a big course, 2.5 miles around. It takes in a lot of geography.
You notice they haven't thrown the yellow flag yet. That means a little bit of rain to the official is still nothing. And these guys are racing just as hard now as they did the first lap.
But there is this imponderable suddenly, though, Bobby, that it may not run the full distance. It might be a lap or two short.
I predict the rain, Sam. I think they're going to go right to the checkered flag, and the hardest guy running better win this race. It's a close one.
They'll be coming up with just 2 laps to go. At the front of the field, it remains Earnhardt, followed by Martin and Dale Jarrett and Al Unser Jr. Again, the yellow car, Jack Baldwin, is not in the hunt at the front. One more time across the line, and they will run for the checker.
Last year, Jarrett, of course, keying off his victory in the Daytona 500, had a reputation for being a man, whenever he was close to victory on the last lap, always managed to win. So that marks Jarrett there in the black car, making a move now on the inside, is a man who's had great success in the very last parts of races.
You saw as they came across the line, they gave the move over to Jack Baldwin. He continues to run up here in the front as they begin to make the moves, running toward the last lap.
I'm not too sure that Baldwin doesn't think that he's still in the race on the same lap, Paul. I think that that's what it is. He probably just doesn't quite understand the rules on it.
So Baldwin very much a factor at the front of the field. Earnhardt, then Mark Martin. There's the white flag. A single lap to go. Al Unser Jr. chased by Jarrett. Then Kyle Petty. Then Rusty Wallace. It's decision time. Earnhardt perhaps in a place that he doesn't want to be, at the front of the field. Traditionally, you wouldn't want to be. Now Mark Martin makes his move to the inside. Al Unser Jr. is down there to help. Earnhardt is on the high side all alone.
Little Al wasn't there quite fast enough to help with Mark Martin. He could have gone by to second place, but they're going to try to leave Mark squeezed back in. They were going to try to leave him out by himself. Didn't work. So now look at Al getting up.
Dale Jarrett on the charge inside of Baldwin as he moves up, trying to grab third place. As Earnhardt leading Al Unser Jr. They come off the fourth and final corner here at Daytona. They head down toward the tri-oval. Earnhardt with Al Unser Jr. making a move to the inside now. But Earnhardt squeezes it all the way down on the apron. Earnhardt takes it, followed by Unser Jr. and Dale Jarrett. And with the win, Earnhardt takes the lion's share of the points and now has the lead in the International Race of Champions.
That was a little bit of a mixed match there with racing with Martin and whoever and Jarrett, and it was just on and on. Just you didn't know who was going to be the next guy you raced with. Rusty and then little Al, he was strong. That little car he was driving was real strong, and I thought he was going to get me that last lap on the back straightaway, but we were fortunate to duck and dive and hold him back there.